When we look at pervasive controls, we had to first understand there are four levels of internal controls in an enterprise. The first is the control environment. The control environment of an enterprise should have underlying integrity, honesty, and ethics. They're supported by a set of policies, standards, and the laws applicable to the enterprise. There are three aspects of the control environment: operating environment, reporting environment, and the compliance environment. Given this control environment in an enterprise, there are three aspects of control. These three aspects of control are pervasive controls that applies to functional areas, across functional areas, then process-related controls and application-related controls. The pervasive controls affect more than one control goal or processes. They cut across functional areas. If you look at an enterprise, the key functional areas are sales, purchases, and personnel. These issues relating to pervasive controls can be classified in relation to people and in relation to information technology. If you take people, they are about staff mobility, turnover of staff, and working remotely for the enterprise. Hiring casual staff is another issue. And thirdly, staff recruitment, retention, and terminating staff. Fourth is the code of conduct of staff. They apply across functional areas. The general information technology issues are data breaches, cybercrimes, cloud computing, file sharing, and various networking or social media sites. They apply across functional areas. When we are addressing pervasive controls, they typically originate from the enterprise design and they apply across functional areas. The aim of these internal controls are to protect resources and to become accountable for resources. There are four types of pervasive controls, or four classification or categories of pervasive controls. First, segregating duties. Second, relating to personnel policies. Third, monitoring controls. Fourth is information technology general control. That is, for example, restricting access to computers. Let's look at the first one, segregating duties. When we segregate duties in relation to events and the processes related to events, we try to mitigate a single staff members committing crimes or frauds. To do that, we had to look at aspects relating to authorizing, executing, recording data and information, and safeguarding resources. So let's look at segregating duties. When it comes to authorizing, for example, it's about who is approving credit and who is approving inventory transfers. Executing, who is completing the shipping documents, who is completing invoicing. Third, recording. Are they recorded in the books of original entry? Are they be posted to the summaries Are the events being summarized or posted to the general ledger? Fourth is to safeguard resources. Are they being stored and are they being transited safely? Who is accountable to counting, checking, and comparing? Segregating duties. Without segregating duties, even with segregating duties, collusion can occur. When collusion is required to commit a crime, one person from each functional department is required to succeed. So the enterprise must be large enough for effective segregation of duties. If there are functional areas in an enterprise, in an expanded enterprise, there could be sales, purchases, production, accounts, and even personnel. It's large enough to segregate duties. To implement segregating duties, it can be more effective in assigning more than one person to a single function. 2 employees, for example, is required to authorize, to release a purchase order, or sign a check. The upside of this is to reduce fraud and increase accuracy. But the downside is increasing the cost of these activities. The optimum solution is to separate critical duties across employees. For example, when it comes to inventories, we can separate record keeping from physical custody of inventory. The optimum solutions must accompany compensatory controls. Compensatory controls, for example, is hiring honest staff members. Segregating duties by events can be done by computerizing the environment, with each event area supported with internal controls. If we take, for example, sales event, who is authorizing sales? There are approved credit limit that can be computerized. Approving inventory transfer that can be computerized. Second, executing. Completing shipping documents can be computerized. Completing invoicing can be computerized. Third, recording. Entering into the books of original entry and posting event summaries to the general ledger could be computerized. Safeguarding resources in transit and in storage, and counting, checking, and comparing also can be computerized. Segregating duties by events in a computerized environment can enhance internal controls. Let's take sales as an event. Credit check process we can automate to authorize customer sales. There could be programs, computer programs, that can consistently perform at every sale. Second, sales order process can be prepared or executed and sent to shipping only when credit checks have been performed. So credit checks is a precursor for the sales order process to occur. Third, the sales record process can be done only when an authorized person, example, a shipping clerk, enters the shipping details. Fourth, log process. The system can also keep a record of when and by whom each step was performed. Second is personal policy controls. A policy is a plan or process put in place to guide actions and thus achieve goals. There are two types. One is laws in relation to people and policies. Laws can compel behaviors and enforce penalties for non-compliance. So on the other hand, policies guide behavior towards action that would lead to most likely and desired goals. Procedures are a set of series of steps that support the policies. For example, hiring incompetent staff. The policy of staff training. It can increase the training costs. The law also applies here when the staff is being terminated. Making more errors has a pervasive effect across functions in authorizing, executing, recording, and safeguarding. Personal policy can be implemented as internal control plans, for example, in selecting and hiring, screening for salary and job duties, retention, provide challenging work and creative work, staff development, regularly trained staff. Fourth, personal development is to identify resources for promotions, rotate duties, provide forced vacation for someone to fill in for duties, and ask for fidelity bonds where the staff member deals with cash and there is a possibility of cash is being stolen. Personal termination, there are voluntary terminations, and in this voluntary termination there could be immediate termination, and immediate termination can occur when a staff member steals or damage property or take information, or there's a potential for that to occur. Voluntary termination with notice when staff is an issue and has to be terminated. Involuntary termination is where staff is laid off or fired for a cause. Third is the monitoring control. Monitoring control is an internal control that determines whether control plans are continuing to function appropriately over time by conducting internal audit checks. Any control weaknesses are communicated to responsible parties to take action. Responsible parties take appropriate action to one level or to a higher level. Monitoring control plans differ from normal control plans. Normal control plans only serves to detect and correct errors. On the other hand, monitoring control plans identify the root cause of the error. Ideally implemented normal control plans are to prevent future errors. Fourth aspect of pervasive controls are general information technology control. The IT general controls are part of IT governance. The PCAOB made no recommendation to IT controls, but a widely adopted framework for IT governance and IT controls is the COVID 4.1 or Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. COVID 4.1 was developed by IT Governance Institute to guide managers, users, and auditors with best practices to manage information technology. The COVID 4.1 supports IT governance by providing a framework that aligns with the enterprise, enables the enterprise to maximize its benefits, and use resources responsibly and manage risk responsibly. COVID groups IT control processes and falls into four broad domains. The first is to plan and organize. Second is to acquire and implement. Third is to deliver and support. And fourth is to monitor and evaluate. The overriding goal of the COVID IT control processes is to identify that IT can best contribute to achieving enterprise goals. After setting the strategic vision, managers must communicate that vision to the staff and to stakeholders. Have information technology infrastructure that enables that vision, and have the information technology processes along with the infrastructure. The IT processes to follow under the COVID 4.1 for internal controls first must establish strategic vision for information technology. Second, must develop tactics to plan, communicate, and manage the strategic vision. Third, automate solutions. Fourth, develop and acquire IT solutions. Fifth is to integrate these solutions into operational process. Sixth is to manage changes to the existing IT systems. Seventh is to deliver required IT services. Eighth is to ensure security and have continuous services of this IT infrastructure and applications. Nine is to provide support services. 10 is to monitor and evaluate these processes. COVID-5 is a relief of the new COVID framework. COVID-5 moved from IT governance as its overall objective to governing enterprise IT to have more center stage into governance. Another difference between COVID 4.1 and COVID 5 is how they specify their domains and processes. A process is a set of procedures and practices. A domain is a set of processes. Processes may include or thought as controls. So in other words, processes have a counterpart of equivalent controls. Governance is embedded in system development life cycle for pervasive controls by documentation. First, there should be documents related to the systems that describe the applications. Second, the documents should describe the programs through flowcharts and source codes. Third, there should be operations manuals for the computer programmers to use. Fourth, there should be user manuals for the users to follow certain procedures of the applications. Fifth, there should be training manuals to learn and use the systems consistently. Six is enterprise should continuously plan for disasters, contingent contingencies, and interruptions through backups. Seventh is continuous data and infrastructure protection through, for example, electronic vaulting. The data is saved at an offsite server so that if there is any contingency or disaster or interruption, the data could be accessed that probably is lost otherwise. COVID-5 follows 5 principles. First, it must meet stakeholder needs. Second, it should cover enterprise end to end. Third, apply a single integrated framework. Fourth, there should be a holistic approach to IT. Fifth is separating governance from management. The COBIT's 5 principles have 7 enablers. The first are the principles, policies, and framework. This enabler is interconnected with the remaining 6 enablers: processes, organizational structures, culture, ethics and behavior, information, services, infrastructure applications, people, skills and competencies. Information, service, infrastructure application, people, skills and competencies are the resources in the enterprise.